not limited to. 2. Request member nations that are imposing sanctions to admit that sanctions will not fix the issue, but make the issue more serious, and that all member states provide, continue, or even boost economic aid for Ethiopia by also lifting current economic sanctions placed on Ethiopia so Ethiopia gains full economical ability to aid the Tigray region. 3. Further calls for the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to maintain its policies to Ethiopia to ensure their economic stability, relieving high debt concerns by 4. Urges member nations to not interfere in the war between Ethiopia and the Tigray rebels, for too much foreign interference could damage the chance of peace. 5. Strongly recommends that any nations wishing to get involved and wishing to resolve the situation peacefully should do so in ways such as but not limited to. 6. Strongly urges all nations to eschew support for the Tigray rebel militias, as it is the best way to get a peaceful solution to the situation at hand. 7. Calls upon all member states to supply funds for forms of humanitarian aid to Tigray and Ethiopia, such as but not limited to. 8. Requests all military forces related to the current Tigray conflict, including the armies of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and the Tigray National Regional State, to ensure convoys carrying humanitarian aid can efficiently access the Tigray region. 9. Expresses its hope in the Ethiopian federal government and the Tigray National Regional State to protect and secure the safety of civilians in Tigray from the effects of war in order to lessen the worsening humanitarian crisis in this region in ways such as, but not limited to. 10. Encourages all the sides involved in the ongoing Tigray conflict to increase transparency on the treatment of Tigray civilians and humanitarian officials moving or stationing within the Tigray region in order to increase the efficiency of humanitarian aid operations in ways such as, but not limited to.
Thank you.
Honorable Chair.
Now, please continue.
So now the delegate will start her speech. Honorable Chairs, fellow delegates, and most esteemed guests. The Tigray War has been ongoing since the 3rd of November 2020. Due to the civil war, an estimate of 9.4 million people requires food in northern Ethiopia. To stop this famine, we encourage the member states to give the Ethiopian government financial aid. Some nations have identified this problem as an international issue that we all have to solve. However, that is not the case for Tigray. This delegate would first like to draw the House's attention to Clause 1. Clause 1 specifically states that building public infrastructures are necessary and shows that this resolution also cares for the Ethiopian citizens that need infrastructures that were destroyed during the civil war. Then, the delegate would like to draw the House's attention to Clause 2, 4, and 5. The delegate of China and her co-submitters would like to first remind the other nations that the situation in Tigray is a domestic affairs issue. These three clauses explicitly tell the member nations that to soothe the current situation, the nations that are putting sanctions into Ethiopia should stop, as they are creating bigger famine in the country, to not interfere in the war, as they bring more chances of danger to peace, and if they ever get involved, they should be providing a way for the Ethiopian government and the Tigray National Regional State forces to resolve the issue peacefully. And Clause 7 and 9 explicitly shows the ways how our member nations could help the people in Ethiopia by doing these humanitarian aids, and ask for the Ethiopian government and the Tigray National Regional State to ensure humanitarian assistance can be provided to the Tigray region. This resolution is well constructed as it cares for the economical support and humanitarian aid to people in Ethiopia. The delegate of China and her co-submitters highly encourages other member states to make amendments so the resolution can pass. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate open to any points of information?
Any and all.
The delegate has herself open to any and all points of information. Are there any delegates wishing to speak at this moment? The delegate of Sudan and the delegate of Russian Federation has been recognized in that order.
In regards to Clause 2, is the delegate of China aware of the fact that Ethiopia's government blocking aid to the Tigray region is not an economical issue, but an intentional political choice in the war?
The delegate of China, yes, believes that that could be an intentional choice. However, this is a domestic issue as the international powers should not interfere in should not meddle into those two fight.
This delegate thanks the delegate of the People's Republic of China for this speech and would like to build on the question that the delegate of Sudan asked. Does the delegate agree that while Ethiopia is blocking aid to the Tigray region, that by the creation of paths of communication between the two nations by outside nations, they would be able to communicate this and thus get aid through to the people in Tigray?
Yes, in the resolution, it also suggests a way to actually make them to talk to each other. So yes, she believes that those two could actually communicate with each other and actually find out a solution to actually aid people in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
Back to the chair, please.
That is in order. The floor is once again open for debate, for speeches for and against the resolution. Are there any delegates wishing to speak? The delegate of Russian Federation has been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Dear delegates, Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, this delegate would please urge the House to vote for this resolution. As can be seen, it is a well thought out, well-structured and detailed resolution that tackles the situation at hand, the question of foreign aid to the Tigray region, Ethiopia. This delegate thus believes that with all the clauses in this resolution, it is a solid plan to help with foreign aid while still keeping foreign intervention at a low, This delegate believes that necessary clauses for this are this delegate believes the clauses that best highlight this are the clauses 4, 2, and 7, because this ensures that economic aid will reach the Tigray people and Ethiopia, while ensuring that foreign intervention will not damage relations in the region, only allow the two parties to communicate with each other. Dear delegates, this delegate believes this war has gone on too long. We believe that you should vote for this resolution as it currently provides the best solution to the problem at hand.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate open to any points of information?
The delegate is open to any and all points of information.
The delegate has opened himself to any and all points of information. Are there any delegates wishing to speak? As there is none, does the delegate yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
This delegate yields the floor back to the chair.
That is in order. The floor is once again open for delegates who wish to speak for or against the resolution. Are there any in the House? The delegate of Sudan has been recognized.
Honorable chairs, fellow delegates, and most distinguished guests, the delegate of Sudan has some concerns regarding this resolution. The delegate of Sudan firmly believes that the Ethiopian government's act of blocking aid to Tigray region is a blatant human rights abuse, and she is wondering why is this committee not only condoning this type of human rights abuse, but also rewarding it with financial aid that could be used for purposes that are not to aid the people of Tigray, but for other purposes that are of the interest of the Ethiopian government only. In addition to that, she believes that many of these clauses regarding humanitarian aid and the resolvement of the war situation are contingent on the two parties cooperating and opening up aid routes with in collaboration with humanitarian organizations. The delegate is wondering what evidence is there to prove that these two parties will willingly open up their aid rights, as there has been multiple incidents and multiple evidence showing that the rebels would continuously loot warehouses and trucks, and that the Ethiopian government will continue starving the citizens of Tigray as a political choice in the war. The delegate wishes that the submitters of the resolution answer these questions and also encourages the House to submit more amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Thus, the delegate opened 20 points of information.
Any and all.
The delegate has opened herself to any and all points of information. Are there any in the House? The delegate of Russian Federation and the delegate of People's Republic of China and the delegate of Republic of Turkey has been recognized in that order.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Delegate of Sudan, for your speech. However, does the delegate not realize that Clause 5, which states that strongly recommends that any nations wishing to get involved and wishing to resolve the situation peacefully to do so in ways such as but not limited to A, providing way for both sides to communicate peacefully, and B, calling for a ceasefire between the two parties? Does the delegate not believe that the diplomatic pressure by these nations and the fact that a way to communicate between the two parties allows all the problems the delegate spoke of to be solved?
The delegate of Sudan believes that just because there is a channel for communication, or just because there is a peace negotiation, that not all the discussion will be fruitful, and that not all parties will utilize these channels in the way that would bring peace. And the delegate's concerns are regarding whether or not the rebel forces and the Ethiopian government would, in case that the international community provides these resources, be still willing to open up their aid routes and also be willing to settle for a ceasefire.
Follow up, Chair.
Follow up granted. Delegate of Russia, the follow up is granted.
Oh, the follow up is granted. Apologies, Chair, this delegate has heard. So for the follow up, the delegate would only like to ask the delegate of Sudan, does the delegate not believe that with enough diplomatic pressure from many member nations of the UN and other nations from other affiliations or from nations that are close to Ethiopia, would the delegate not believe that with enough diplomatic pressure, these problems might be solved?
The delegate believes that there might be a possibility, but that still does not guarantee in the problems being solved, as the conflict in Ethiopia is one with very long roots in history, with starting from the regime of the Tigrayan government, and thus it has a very deep conflict. And therefore, even if there is enough diplomatic pressure from all sides, and there might be a temporary ceasefire, the ceasefire wouldn't be long lasting, as the political tensions between the ethnic groups of Ethiopia would remain. And the delegate also has many doubts about whether or not a temporary ceasefire will even be possible, even with diplomatic pressure.
Thank you, delegate, for the speech. However, does the delegate not recognize in clause 10 that the resolution actually talks about how to resolve the Tigray conflict, and then it talks about it and how to solve it by using clause 10, subclause A?
The delegate believes that clause 10 states to encourage the all sides in the ongoing Tigray conflict, which seems like a very the term encourages does not seem like a word that the both sides would feel like they need to follow. And she also realizes that this resolution was written in 2005, and therefore she believes that even with the existence of such resolutions in the past and the Tigray conflict had even because the Tigray conflict was ongoing in the state where these resolutions were already happening, the delegate believes that these resolutions were ineffective because there was not enough pressure on both sides to try to allow humanitarian aid.
Follow up.
Follow up granted.
So, does the delegate really believe that even though this is a domestic problem, an international power has to come in and fix this issue?
Delegate is not saying that international powers should come in and be involved in these issues. She is saying that as the UN and as a committee in the UN, that this resolution seems to be rewarding human rights abuse, and that it also seems to be too reliant on the belief that parties in war would be friendly and will be willing to open up aid routes, unlike how they have acted in the past.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the delegate for your speech. This delegate would like to pose a question to the delegate of Sudan. Previously, this delegate believes that the delegate of Sudan has stated that a ceasefire may not work and may not regain peace in the area. Is that correct?
Yes, the delegate believes that there is always a possibility of a ceasefire not working.
Follow up, Chair.
Follow-up granted.
Thank you, Chair. This delegate would like to point out that under these circumstances, even with diplomatic pressure, once again, as the delegate of the Russian Federation once said, so obviously peace doesn't always necessarily could be achieved through these ceasefires, and even if, I mean, my apologies, even negotiations may not be able to come. Both sides may not been able to meet up with each other to ensure that a ceasefire will happen. But does this delegate realize that this is the best chance of foreign intervention? And does the delegate of Sudan see any other way to maintain or to ensure that peace will come to the Tigray region, other than encouraging negotiations between both sides in this conflict to call for a ceasefire?
Delegate sees that it is important that the international community be encouraging that both sides come to a ceasefire. However, she is raising concerns about whether or not it'll be able to happen, and in the meantime, how would aid be able to be distributed to the citizens?
Thank you, dear delegate, for your speech. And would the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
Back to the chair.
That is in order. The floor is once again open for delegates who wish to speak for or against this resolution. Are there any in the House? The delegate of the Republic of France has been recognized.
Is the audio of the delegate of the Republic of France highly audible?
The audio is audible.
Thank you, Chair. The Republic of France expresses great concerns towards some of the points raised in the clauses of this resolution, referring, for instance, to Clause 3 and specifically subclause C, which calls for the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to continue funding Ethiopia to stop relying on foreign investments. However, according to recent history, aid has been provided for many years by international organizations to the government of Ethiopia, and yet this country has continued to stay in relative poverty and instability, and a great portion of the fundings has not been used to fund the people, to help the people in the crisis, and thus have been provided to the military to continue extending civil wars like this. I would also like to refer to Clause 4, which urges member nations to not interfere in this conflict. However, the delegate of France believes it would be relatively difficult for these organizations, despite being international organizations, to stay neutral due to the nature of their leadership being from the nature of the leadership of these organizations being of primarily Western-leaning nations. So once again, the delegate for France would just like to emphasize their concern towards some of the points raised in this resolution.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate open to any points of information?
The delegate is open to 5 points of information.
The delegate himself has opened to 5 points of information. Does any delegate want to speak at this moment? The delegate of United States, the delegate of Haiti, the delegate of United Kingdom has been recognized in that order.
It was highlighted by the delegate that clause 3 about the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank was somewhat not adequate, but this delegate would like to ask the delegate once again why this is.
As the delegate has stated in his previous speech, the delegate thinks that this point is inadequate because funding Ethiopia to stop relying on foreign investment. The point raised here about funding the government has always been kind of implemented by foreign organizations funding providing aid and funding the government. However, these funds have usually turned out to not be used for helping the lives of innocent people affected by wars, and have been used to continuously fund the people, the government themselves, and the military to in some ways spice up the continuous conflict.
The delegate of Haiti.
The delegate of France mentioned, The delegate of France mentioned that clause 4, where it urges member nations to not interfere. Does the delegate also realize that clause 5 strongly recommends that any nations wishing to get involved and wishing to resolve the situation peacefully should do so in a way such as but not limited to? Is the delegate of the Republic of France aware of this clause?
The delegate of France is aware of clause 5, however, did not pay too much attention to it in their speech a little while ago. So the delegate would like to apologize to the delegate of Haiti and the House for not providing much attention.
Apologies, Chair. This delegate's POA has already been answered.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
The delegate would like to yield the floor back to the chair.
That is an order. The chair would also like to remind the delegates from using personal pronouns. The floor is once again open for delegates wishing to speak for or against this resolution. Are there any in the House? The delegate of Democratic People's North Korea has been recognized.
The delegate of Democratic People's Republic of Korea believes that this resolution should pass due to the fact that the resolution focuses on economic and financial, which is the main goal of this committee. For example, at committee and operated clause 1 and 3, the People's Republic of China and the co-committees address that further calls for the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to maintain politics in Ethiopia to ensure that economic stability, relieving high debt, constant supply. This addresses the economic situation of Ethiopia and how it should be considered and how it could be solved. So this delegate is highly recommending other delegates to proceed this resolution.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate open to any points of information? Sorry, could the delegate repeat once again? The delegate has opened himself to any and all points of information. Are there any delegates wishing to speak at this moment? As there is seen none, would the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
The chair will go to back to.
That is an order. The floor is once again open for delegates wishing to speak. Also, a quiet reminder for every delegate that the amendments are also open. So, delegates wishing to fill in the amendments should contact the deputy chair, and also the chairs would highly recommend using amendments. The floor is once again open for chairs wishing to speak for or against the resolution. Are there any in the house? The delegate of Russian Federation has been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Dear delegates, esteemed chairs and esteemed delegates, this delegate yet again urged the House to vote for this resolution. This delegate would also like to address one of the points that was brought up by the delegate of Sudan, the human rights abuses by Ethiopia. This delegate believes that those are only alleged human rights abuses, which means there is no evidence supporting this as of yet. This delegate thus believes that it is within the good conscience of the House to vote for this resolution, as supporting Ethiopia will indirectly support the Tigray region if a ceasefire and peace can be reached. Thus, the delegate believes that this resolution is solid and well thought out, and that most, if not all, the points pertaining to the situation at hand have been addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate open to any points of information?
2 POIs.
The delegate has opened himself to 2 points of information. Are there any in the house? The delegate of Republic of Turkey and the delegate of Kingdom of Denmark has been recognized in that order.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Delegate, for your speech. Does the delegate agree that there have been proven human rights abuses not by the Ethiopian federal government, but instead by the Tigray rebel forces, which are countering against the Ethiopian government? There have been evidence, photos, and documentation, not documentation, but at least photographic evidence of mass graves and mass murders committed by Tigray rebel forces against the civilians in the Tigray region.
Yes, this delegate does agree that it seems the Tigray rebels have been the only ones committing war crimes as of such, because they are the only ones that have, because it is only, evidence is only provided for their side of the conflict.
Thank you, the delegate of Russia, for his speech. As brought up by other delegates, this delegate's question is, does the delegate of Russia think that that when the government of Ethiopia receives financial aid from the IMF, the government will use the money to help the people of Tigray rather than using that money to benefit themselves at the exploit of the Tigrayan people?
This delegate believes that it is the sole intent of the Ethiopian government to find a peaceful resolution to this war and thus help the Tigray people. The only obstacle in the path of the Ethiopian government is the Tigray rebels. Thus, the funding can be used to eliminate the Tigray rebels, and the remaining funds can also be used to help the Tigray people after the war has been concluded. Alternatively, a peace can be reached and terms can be discussed, which will also benefit the Tigray people, as this war in their region will be stopped.
A request for follow-up?
Follow-up granted.
The delegate of Russia mentions that ceasefire can be achieved if they are brought up together to peacefully negotiate. But is the delegate also aware of the fact that last year there was this negotiation arranged, but then the Ethiopian government refused the request by TPLF for the peaceful ceasefire?
This delegate does recall that has happened, but this delegate believes that with enough diplomatic pressure from all sides, that a ceasefire can be reached, and a ceasefire can be reached between the two parties. Russia has already called for a ceasefire in recent times, and the Ethiopian government and Russia are on good terms. Thus, this delegate believes that a ceasefire can be reached if enough diplomatic pressure is applied.
Thank you, delegate, for your speech. Would the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
This delegate yields the floor back to the chair.
That is an order. The floor is once again open for delegates who wish to speak for or against the resolution. Are there any in the House? The delegate of Haiti has been recognized to give a speech on this resolution.
Fellow delegates and honorable chairs, this resolution is, as mentioned by the delegates of Russia and the People's Republic of China, is very clear and well constructed, and is a solid resolution. So this delegate would push for the House to vote for this resolution.
Thank you, delegate. Would the delegate open to any points of information?
One, please.
The delegate has opened herself to one point of information. Are there any in the House? The delegate of Republic of Turkey has been recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, delegate, for your speech. If I recall correctly, Haiti is pushing for further humanitarian aid to be provided to Tigray region. Does the delegate of Haiti agree that looking at clauses 7, upward of clause 7, upward of clause 8, upward of clause 9, and upward of clause 10, the submitters of this resolution is pushing and making sure and encouraging all member nations to make sure that humanitarian aid and economic aid is being continued in this region of Ethiopia?
Can the delegate of the Republic of Turkey please restate their question in a more concise manner?
Can the delegate of Republic of Turkey restate their question?
My apologies. The question is, does the delegate of Haiti believe that this resolution is well balanced and not only ensures that economic aid is being provided to Tigray, but also that enough humanitarian aid is also being provided to Tigray civilians?
Yes, this delegate does believe so.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
It is so yielded.
Sorry, delegate.
The delegate yields it back to the chair.
That is an order. The floor is once again open for delegates wishing to speak. Also, the chair encourages the delegates to make amendments to ensure that the committee can present the best solutions to the presenting issue. So, the chairs really encourage the delegates to make amendments on this resolution. And also, we will continue the debate. Is there any delegate wishing to speak at this moment? The delegate of Sudan has been recognized.
Honorable chairs, fellow delegates, and most distinguished guests. Previously in his speech, the delegate of Russia has stated that there has been only allegations of human rights abuse, which were coming from the Tigray rebel side. However, the delegate of Sudan believes that the UN has actually stated that the Ethiopian government is blocking aid to the Tigray region, which means that the very organization that all of us are in are currently have stated that there has been some sort of human rights abuse, and the delegate of Russia is undermining the authority of this conference itself, and therefore she believes that Russia's claims are outrageous. Russia has also stated that the Ethiopian government will be able to utilize the financial support to win the war and oust the rebels. However, Delegate of Sudan believes that this is going against the interests of the United Nations, as the role of the United Nations is to bring peace, not to encourage countries to bring more violence, and therefore believes that the entire intention of having the Ethiopian government receive foreign aid is very morally wrong and not suited for the UN. She therefore believes that instead of giving the Ethiopian government so much foreign aid, there must be more focus on humanitarian aid that does not go through the Ethiopian government, as there is proof that the Ethiopian government will not use their foreign aid for the people of Tigray, but for their own interests, and therefore urges the House to submit amendments and consider these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Does the delegate open to any points of information?
Any and all.
The delegate has herself open to any and all points of information. Are there any delegates wishing to speak at this moment? The delegate of United States of America, the delegate of Republic of Turkey, and the delegate of Russian Federation has been recognized in that order.
Thank you, Delegate, for your speech. However, this delegate wonders what she means, because this about the United Nations while urging members to stay away from the war because it would lead to a damaging peace. This is stated in clause 4. So what is meant by this claim?
The delegate is not responding to the regarding the claim. The delegate has not been using the resolution, but has been citing what the delegate of Russia has stated in his answer to a POI by the delegate of Denmark. And therefore, she also believes that it is right of the UN to be able to, the UN to work towards peace by perhaps reducing foreign interference. But she believes that the comments made by the delegate of Russia were not regarding this.
The delegate of Turkey.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the delegate of Sudan for his speech. Does if I recall correctly, the delegates of Sudan has saying that the funds that are being given to the Ethiopian government are not being used accordingly. But does the delegate realize that at this current stage of the conflict, there is very limited power that the Ethiopian government has to being able to enforce these funds in the Tigray region? For currently in the Tigray region is not being controlled by the Ethiopian government, but is actually controlled by the Tigray national state or the rebel forces.
The delegate believes that the Ethiopian government is involved in the act of blocking aid towards the Tigray region, and therefore, by not blocking the aid, this is also possible.
Follow-up request.
Follow-up granted.
As of this moment, once again, the Tigray region is not in control by the Ethiopian government, but is actually in control of the rebel forces. That is why the Ethiopian government has been blocking aid toward this region only certain levels, because the Ethiopian government has been believing that that all forms of aid being given towards Tigray is being used to the personal benefit of the Tigray rebel forces. After seeing that there have been very few civilians in regions controlled by the rebel forces who have not been supplied enough humanitarian aid, and that very low levels of aid being pushed to these regions have been given to civilians who are being controlled by the rebel forces.
The delegate still believes that the Ethiopian act of blocking humanitarian aid towards a region itself is that itself is a human rights abuse. And she believes that if the Ethiopian government were so had no intentions of trying to purposely lead the Tigray region to starvation, then they might have had other policies or other ways, such as they might have attempted communication before this conference was even happening. And she still believes that although all parties have although the Tigray rebels also have a fault in this blocking of humanitarian aid, that the Ethiopian government should not be condoned for its behavior either.
Follow-up requested.
Not granted.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Delegate, for your speech. First off, this delegate would like to apologize for misspeaking. This delegate in no way wanted to insinuate that the funds given to the Ethiopian government need to be used to eliminate the Tigray rebels. This was the delegate misspoke and only meant that the funds should be used to help help barter peace between the two parties. And onto the PI. This delegate would only like to ask, does the delegate not realize that past attempts at foreign aid in the Tigray region have been disguised as military aid to the Tigray rebels?
And can the chair ask the delegate to restate his question? And the delegate couldn't hear because of the audio issue.
Can the delegate of Russian Federation restate their question, please?
Apologies, Chair. First off, this delegate would like to apologize for not speaking. This delegate did not mean to insinuate that the Tigray rebels should be eliminated. Secondly, this delegate would like to ask, is the delegate not aware that previous attempts at foreign aid have been used to disguise military aid to the Tigray rebels?
The delegate believes that the humanitarian organizations such as the World Food Program have not sent military aid to the Tigray rebels. And the delegate believes that if aid should be continued in the way that relies heavily through the process and workings of non-governmental organizations, then she believes that there is not a problem of aid that is disguised as military aid, as she trusts that non-governmental organizations working in collaboration with the UN would not do such things.
Follow-up, Chair?
A follow-up granted.
Does the delegate not believe that the Russian Federation was talking about direct aid that was given by governments instead of non-government organizations?
The delegate believes that direct aid given directly by the government may have been used for certain purposes to aid the military. However, there is not a single country in this world that has publicly spoken that they are supporting the Tigray rebels, and therefore believes that these two might all be allegations, and that such problems of allegation could be solved by relying more on non-governmental organizations.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
Back to the chair.
That is an order. The chairs highly encourage the delegates to make amendments on this resolution to make the resolution more strong and effective, and amendments are always constructive feedbacks and good constructions for the resolution. So the chairs highly encourage all the delegates to make amendments. So let's again proceed on for the debate. The delegate of Somalia has been recognized to give a speech on this resolution.
Thank you, Chair. The delegate of Somalia strongly believes that this resolution is overall a really well-structured resolution, and that this resolution should be passed. And I would like to, the delegate of Somalia would like to draw attention to clause 1. This shows that however, delegate of Somalia would like to draw attention to clause 1. The delegate of Somalia don't think that this don't have to do with the issue we're talking about. The question is the issue of foreign aid integrate, but the delegate of Somalia is wondering why we're that cause one is talking about a safety buildings in um
Is the Somalian delegates internet stable? Or is it the speech? Okay, anyways, we can proceed on. The delegate of United Kingdom has been recognized to give a speech on this topic, on this resolution.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, and most esteemed guests. This delegate following the other delegates who have also made a speech, except for some outliers, this delegate believes that this resolution should be passed because this delegate believes that the question of the issue of foreign aid integrity was answered the best by this amendment, this resolution, and the delegate also sees much research put into this resolution, considering that it also quotes former resolutions from the past. And overall, the delegate sees that some issues that may have appeared are fixed by other resolutions, such as Operative Clause 4 and Operative Clause 5. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear delegate. Is the delegate open to any points of information?
This delegate would like to entertain 2.
The delegate has opened himself for 2 points of information. Are there any in the House to speak, wishing to speak at this moment? The delegate of Russian Federation has been recognized to give a POI.
Does the delegate agree that this resolution clearly states how foreign aid could be supplied to the Tigray region and Ethiopia in general?
Considering the fact that this delegate supports this amendment, this delegate believes so, yes.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
Back to the chair, please.
That is an order. The floor is once again open for delegates who are wishing to speak for or against the resolution. Are there any in the House? The delegate of United States of America has been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. The delegate of the United States of America would like to speak for this resolution. However, still point out that many of the things in this resolution are still very difficult to determine if they will actually have a lasting impact in Ethiopia. However, judging by the fact that these are all very, very well intended, and this delegate does not see any serious violations, the delegate of the United States of America would pledge the House to vote for this resolution.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate open to any points of information?
Any and all.
The delegate has himself open to any and all points of information. Are there any in the House? The delegate of Sudan has been recognized.
Seeing that the U.S. currently imposes quite a heavy amount of sanctions on the Ethiopian government, could the delegate of USA clarify his stance on Clause 2, which requests that all member nations that are imposing sanctions should admit that sanctions will not fix the issue, and lift all sanctions?
Yes, well, the United States does not have any forced sanctions, as the United States believes that there are, as the only opportunity for peace in Ethiopia is if these sanctions get withdrawn.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate want to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
Back to the chair, please. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. That is an order. Thank you, delegate. Chair Shreyas will yield the chairing rights to Chair Virak.
Accepted. Now House will come into order. An amendment have been filed in by the delegate of Russia. May the delegate of Russia make his speech.
Thank you, Chair. Dear delegates, one of the delegates in the past has made a good point that clause 1 is not wholly relevant to the resolution. Thus, this delegate believes that clause 1 and all its pertaining subclauses should be struck to make the resolution more relevant and thus more focused on the situation at hand.
Thank you, the delegate. Does the delegate open himself to any point of information?
No POIs.
May the delegate repeat?
No points of information.
The delegate did not open himself to any point of information. Does the delegate yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
This delegate yields the floor back to the chair.
The floor is now open. Are there any delegate wishing to speak for or against this amendment? The delegate of Turkey have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the delegate of the Russian Federation for your speech. This delegate would urge all members, urge the House to vote for this amendment, because looking at the subclauses, looking at operative clause 1, it is emphasizing the need to build public infrastructures, which this delegate believes are long-term impacts, long-term, not temporary aid, which is currently the focus of this committee in this debate. So thank you. Yeah, this delegate would urge all members to vote for this amendment.
Thank you, delegate. Does the delegate open himself to any point of information?
Any and all.
The delegate has opened himself to any and all point of information. Are there any in the House? Seeing none, now the floor will be open again. Are there any wishing to speak for or against this amendment?
Motion to move the previous question.
Seconds?
Second.
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 Seeing the House has seconded a motion to move to the previous question, the amendment will be moved on to voting procedures. Chair, please take note of the votes. Delegate who wishes to vote for this amendment, please raise your hand. Delegate who wish to vote against this amendment, please raise the placard. Seeing the overwhelming majority of those who wish to vote for this amendment will pass. Clapping is in order. The amendment has passed. Now the floor is back to debating the whole resolution. Are there any in the House who wish to speak for or against the whole resolution?
Motion to close debate.
That is not a second.
Second.
Seconds.
Second.
Seeing there are minorities of people who delegates who wish to move to close the debate, we'll continue the debate. Are there any in the House who wish to speak for or against the motion, the whole resolution? The delegate of North Korea have been recognized to speak. Oh, did the delegate of Russia wish to speak?
Yes, but this delegate wishes to speak.
Then the delegate have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Esteemed chairs, honorable delegates, this resolution has just become much better. This delegate believes that with the inclusion of clause 1, the resolution was not fully focused on the problem at hand. Now, with the exclusion of clause 1, this delegate believes that this resolution can be much more focused and thus provide a solution to the problem at hand more efficiently. Thus, this delegate again asks all members of the House to vote for this resolution, as its clauses are well thought out, well structured, and provide detailed solutions to the problem at hand.
Thank you for your speech. Does the delegate open himself to any point of information?
No.
The delegate did not open himself to any point of information. Does the delegate wish to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
This delegate wishes to yield the floor back to the chair.
Thank you. The floor is now open again. Are there any delegate who wish to speak for or against this whole resolution? The delegate of People's Republic of China have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable chairs, fellow delegates, the delegate of People's Republic of China would like to restate and tell the House to vote for this resolution, as this resolution is full and complete. And with the strike of clause 1, the resolution is now better, and it focuses on the issue of the foreign aid in Tigray. And she believes that with this resolution, it can actually further solve the issue in Tigray and will be having more better future solutions, and therefore she urges the House to vote for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate of People's Republic of China. Does the delegate open herself to any point of information?
Any and all pertaining to her speech.
The delegate of China has opened herself to any and all point of information pertaining to her speech. Are there any in the House? The delegate of Denmark has been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Delegate of People's Republic of China, for her speech. This delegate also thinks that this resolution is very constructive and is written in great details and lists specific actions on what each delegate here can take for resolving the issue in Tigray. However, this delegate just would like to ask one question about operative clause 5, subclause B, which says calling for a ceasefire between two parties to regain peace in the area. And this delegate is just curious, who will be overseeing that the negotiation between two parties and who will be responsible?
Thank you, delegate, for the POI. If the delegate sees in clause 5, it strongly recommends that any nations that are wishing to get involved. The delegate of China and the co-submitters think that the nations that are wishing to get involved will call for a ceasefire if they ever get involved.
Thank you, Delegate of People's Republic of China. Will she yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
Back to the chair, please.
Thank you. The deputy chair would like to yield the chairing rights to the head chair.
Thank you. The yield accepted. Thank you, delegate. Thank you, deputy chair. The floor is once again open for delegates who are wishing to speak for or against this resolution. Are there any in the House? The delegate of Sudan has been recognized to give a speech on this resolution.
Honorable chairs, fellow delegates, and most distinguished guests. The delegate of Sudan, although she cannot agree with the idea of supporting the Ethiopian government when they are committing human rights abuses, believes that other areas in the resolution are very constructive and well written, and therefore, although she is still considering whether or not to vote for this resolution, believes that this resolution, apart from the areas regarding the financial aid towards the Ethiopian government, is very well written and urges the House to submit amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Is the delegate open to any points of information?
Any and all.
The delegate has opened herself to any and all points of information. Are there any in the House? Since there is none, would the delegate like to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
Back to the chair.
That is in order. The floor is once again open for delegates wishing to speak for or against this resolution. Are there any in the House? The delegate of North Korea has been recognized to give a speech on this resolution.
The delegate of North Korea strongly recommends other delegates to agree on passing this resolution because this resolution contains lots of process of settling down the conflict in the Ethiopia and trying to support the people living in Ethiopia in a peaceful way. So this delegate highly recommends other delegates to agree on this resolution.
Thank you, delegate, for your speech. Does the delegate open to any points of information?
No.
The delegate has not opened himself to any points of information. Does the delegate want to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
Back to the chair.
That is in order. The floor is once again open for delegates wishing to speak for or against this resolution. Also, a quiet reminder for all delegates that amendments are also promoted and encouraged by the chairs. So delegates wishing to make amendments, please do. And also amendments are constructive things for the resolution, and so amendments are highly encouraged. The floor is once again open for delegates wishing to speak. Are there any in the House? The delegate of People's Republic of China has been recognized to give a speech on this resolution.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, and most esteemed guests. As China has mentioned before, this resolution as a whole is very constructive, and also it points on and is very descriptive, as other delegates have also supported this whole resolution. So she believes that all the House members should vote for this resolution. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Is the delegate open to any points of information?
Any and all pertaining to her speech.
The delegate has opened herself to any and all points of information pertaining to her speech. Is there any delegates wishing to speak at this moment? As there is seen none, does the delegate wish to yield the floor back to the chair or to another delegate?
Back to the chair, please.
That is an order. The House will move on to voting procedures now. The dear Deputy Chair, please note the votes, and delegates who are standing for this resolution, please raise your hands. Delegates who are standing against this resolution, please raise your hands. Delegates who are abstaining, please raise your hands. As with the overwhelming amount of votes for the resolution with 9 votes, against none, 0 votes, and 2 abstaining, the resolution shall pass. Clapping is an order. The chair, Shreyas, would like to yield the chairing rights to Chair Birak.
Accepted. As seen that the House have come to closing, the resolution that the House have passed today is only one resolution submitted by the People's Republic of China. We will move on to superlatives. Please wait a moment. Delegate, please wait for a moment. I'll share the link out. The chair will give 5 minutes to fill in the Google form. Thank you.
Chair, is all the resolution done?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe that we still have 2 hours left for the conference to end.
I'm afraid it will have to end shortly.
Okay,
After
how many resolutions have you guys have this conference done? Like, is it 3? All 3 resolutions are done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
1 through 3 resolutions.
does the chair team have any plan for 2 hours?
As of now, we have not thought of any plan, but What does the Secretary General suggest?
The Secretary General didn't expect any committees to finish in such a short time. The chair will probably, the Secretary General will probably suggest doing a maybe casual topic debate. Yeah.
Yep.
The Secretary General will also check with directors. Thank you.
Thank you. I've seen only 8 responses so far. Are there any delegate who did not submit the form? Please do it now.
This delegate has a question. What does the form mean? What does the question mean by most attractive delegate?
That is subjectively like attractive to the delegate. It is not by any means an objective, like a bar that sets to anyone's standard.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate's opinion, yeah.